when I go to a new place, my disability is once again put front and center. There's this conception of identity called the model of multiple dimensions of identity. If you Google it, it looks like a fifth grade science project. Uh, it looks like one of those things you do when you're creating the solar system.
Oh, oh. So I think I know what you're talking about, but keep going. I want
But
to.
what it basic on a basic level, what it says is that depending on the environment that you're in, different pieces of your identity will show themselves as more relevant. Um, and so when I go to a new place, my disability is once again put front and center. By the time I left North Dakota State, disability was still there, but it was much further in the background because I knew who could help me solve problems. I knew who to call if I got stuck in the snow. I knew who could help me navigate at the rec center when the elevators didn't work. I knew how to navigate through those problems. When I went to a new place, when I went to Oklahoma State in 2014, I had to relearn all those things. So the fact that I was limited came much more back to the forefront of who I was. And so I always go through this experience of where I feel very, very vulnerable, very out there, very, very conscious of my disability. And then as I'm in that place longer, as I build those relationships like you're talking about, as I start to create that community, that piece of who I am never goes away, but it gets to recede. It gets to start to fall back, and I get to let other parts of who I am, whether it's the professional educator part or the athlete part or the social activist part, whatever part it is, gets to come more to the front because the disability part is kind of settled in and moved to the back.
So if that's scary and vulnerable, which is an uncomfortable place for most people, what makes you keep
That's
jumping in? Yeah, what makes you keep jumping into that pool of anxiety and vulnerability?
That's a really good question. Uh, I think a couple things. I think it's being able to reflect on those experiences and realize how each one of those has helped me grow. And knowing that in the end, all of the places I've gone, I feel like I've ultimately had success. It will be scary and uncomfortable up front, but eventually I get to a point where it's second nature. And I'll use an example from when I was at Oklahoma State. When I was there, I worked a year in the student conduct office, but I spent 4 of my 5 years there doing student athlete academic advising, specifically with football. And there was a time my very first team meeting that I went to, I have very rarely ever been more aware of my limitations than I was in that moment. Here I am sitting in a room full of 130 football players who you were a Division I athlete. You know, as a Division I scholarship athlete, you are there because of what you can do physically.
Right.
Fast, you can jump high, you can lift heavy things. Mm-hmm. You are absolutely there because of what you can do with your physical body. And incredibly, like, what are these guys going to think of me? Am I going to have any credibility? Am I going to be in a position to, even though academic advising has nothing to do with what I can do physically, that's how these guys measure success. And so that was early on in my career there. There was a situation 2 or 3 years later where our elevators broke. This is apparently a theme in my life. Elevator seems to break. Right. But where there were 2 or 3 days when our elevators were down in the academic center. And without a second thought, I had guys volunteering to come down and walk one in front and one behind as I made my way up the stairs so I wouldn't fall. So at the very beginning of this experience, I'm hyper aware of the things I can't do, of physical limitations. But over that time, as I had built relationships with those guys, and they'd gotten to see more of the full picture of who Tim is, the fact that they were helping me up the stairs didn't matter. It didn't diminish that I could still help them find the right math class.
Yeah.
When I got there. And so I think that that's being able to go through those experiences and know this is going to suck and be really uncomfortable. And at some point in my early transition to a new place, I'm going to call my family and my friends and I'm going to go, what in the world am I doing? Why am I here? This is insane. In Fargo, that's when it snowed on Halloween. I was like, what the hell?
Right.
You have 7 inches of snow in October. Why did I think this was a good idea? But it's knowing that if you can get through that, if you can continue to build and struggle through some of that challenge, there are beautiful things on the other side. There are relationships and connections and growth that is awesome.